We all know that romantasy galleys are not the brightest sparks, and that the most popular romantasy fiction is conservative propaganda for straight women with a patriarchy kink.
Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, what's up? And if you're coming back, I missed you, dude. You better strap on. Strap on?
Strap in. This one.
Strap on's that one. Strap in. Okay. You better strap in. Something crazy happened in the book community and I am here to present it to you. An author posted a video on TikTok calling romantasy readers not the brightest sparks. Yes, those exact words. And actually just accused an entire genre of being conservative propaganda. She was actually talking about romantasy. The book community is in flames. I've seen so many posts on threads today, like everything on my threads was about this. Honestly, I think everyone is a little bit in the wrong here, but let's get into it and talk about it. She did delete the video, but the book community was fast and we have the original video. Here's what happened. We're gonna look at the video in depth in a second. But basically this author said, and I quote, "We all know that romantasy girlies are not the brightest sparks and that the most popular romantasy fiction is conservative propaganda for straight women with a patriarchy kink." Let that sink in. She then went on to say that she wasn't surprised that romantasy readers didn't like What Fury Brings, a book by Trisha something. So basically this was her way of telling people that she read a good book and she wants people to be more aware about it. In order to bring that to light, because that's the second part of the video, she had to shame an entire community of people. I can't understand how people can post something like this and be like, no, it's okay, it'll be fine, no more. But yeah, this was her basically trying to tell people like, your taste is crap, but you should read this book. But usually people who read romantasy they have no brains. But do you want to guess the genre of the book she was trying to recommend? It was romantasy. How can it be like, okay, listen, you guys are actually so dumb for liking romantasy, but actually I have this book that is romantasy, but you know what, this is better because I like it, so it has a higher quality. I have my notes here. I always try to bring all the arguments in and try to make people understand why this is not okay. I'm not just here to bash this girl, I'm just here to talk about the facts and why this is not okay.
We all know that romantasy galleys are not the brightest sparks, and that the most popular romantasy fiction is conservative propaganda for straight women with a patriarchy kink. So, with that in mind, I wasn't particularly surprised when I realised that romantasy galleys don't like this book, this really fantastic work of romantic fantasy fiction. This is What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller, a fantastic piece of feminist romantasy. It's a book that flips a lot of romantasy tropes on their heads, as well as the story.
Here's why I think this is just like so malicious and harmful, because I get that you're frustrated about this book not getting enough attention and you want to bring this to the attention of the readers, but why you have to go out of your way putting a whole group, a whole demographic down in order to make your point heard? I will bring up her apology, but I just want to say that I don't think this is accidental, just putting someone down. This is just intentional. I get that sometimes book talk accounts can be like very quick to show the bad part of readers. Like I've seen book talk accounts like skipping paragraphs and saying they didn't like a book, or like saying, where is the smart? I hate this book, I DNF'd it because there's no smart in there. But like this type of accounts appear like once in a blue moon. You can't just generalize and mean that everyone who reads romantasy is not the brightest spark out there. What do you mean? I haven't read this book that she's talking about, and I haven't read the reviews about it, but just tell me, just let me tell you, what point you're trying to make is already, it's being nullified by the fact that you started your opinion by putting an entire group of women down. You're talking about patriarchy and blaming women for upholding the patriarchy because they read romantasy. Fictional romance, when there's actually men out there causing actual harm. Like, are you really gonna sit there and like put girls down for what they read when there's men out there just taking rights from women and like telling them what to do with their body. You really think that's the main issue? You really think the girlies reading romantasy is the issue? I also want to talk about, don't get me wrong, I am one to explore different genres and not be stuck just in the romantasy, even though that's how I started my reading journey, by reading romantasy. And I do think I would love to see more people expanding their genre bracket in a way, but what she is doing, she's using the term feminist and trying to shove that in your faces just to disguise her literally elitism. Because let's call it what it is. It's a literary snobbery packaged beautifully in a little feminism bow. I'm not even gonna talk about the main idea that everyone keeps telling you about all the freaking time, and I will die saying this: reading is subjective. I can read the worst book out there in someone else's eyes and see it as the most beautiful book. To me, that doesn't mean that I think these other people are dumb for not liking it. You see what I'm trying to say there? But she does mention the patriarchy kink. What the hell was kink? And I want to talk about how that whole thing she's trying to put into words is a bit of a misconception. And let me tell you why. Because she's using a very, very specific type of book where I would call that more into like the submissive genre and trying to prove her point. And I think she's also using specific reviews that she has seen to try and shame people, saying you guys are dumb for thinking this. There is a difference between power fantasy and patriarchy. These male characters that you're referring to, yes, they're usually powerful male kings, blah blah blah, but a lot of the times they use their power to make her shine and help her in her quests. And usually fantasy, this makes me so mad, because fantasy is one genre where I think this is like even overplayed. The little girl who grew up in the slums and had no prospects for her life, she can become a warrior, she can become a fighter, she can overthrow kingdoms, and she can fight men, and she will win. What? And then the craziest thing, this girl's an author. Tell me how, as an author, because you know what you just did? You alienated a whole demographic that might have read your book. I'm sorry, but that's gonna stay with you. You're still expecting some of these people to support you. This is gonna stay with you. And let's be honest, I know, and we've been talking about this on this channel, in today's age, it's not about just writing anymore. It's about marketing. It's about marketing yourself and your book, and your career. Imagine I'm a baker and I bake croissants, and then I go on the internet and say that people who like croissants are dumb and they're idiots for liking raspberry croissants and not liking pistachio croissants, the ones that I sell. It's just, how? You need to calm down. This is not you that said this. This is, you don't know this person. This person does not know you. She mentioned conservative propaganda. And while I do think some books uphold traditional gender roles and culture and purity culture and stuff like that, and they are prevalent in some books, readers can enjoy problematic content without being critical of it. It can just be an escape. It doesn't have something that defines your beliefs. And I think the perfect example is dark romance genre. I will say, as a reader, I'm not a fan of dark romance. I find it a bit silly in my opinion, but I know that a lot of women find it empowering. So who am I to go out of my way to tell that woman that she's dumb for liking that? Like, that is, can you understand why this is so absurd, right? It's not just me, right? Right. But before we look at her apology, I keep doing this because I don't think it's an apology, but let's look at some responses, because I took some screenshots from threads that I kept seeing today. Someone help me understand. Is the author really out here arguing that it's only the girlies who are upholding the patriarchy when straight men are literally right there? This is exactly what I said. There's actually men out there trying to take rights away from women, and you're upset with some girls reading some fantasy.
Question from the class. Men that come for women specifically who read...
For reading. Exactly. Oh my God. Get it.
It's really twisted. Fucked up.
The boyfriend has a great opinion and a great point to make. We already, as women, are being put down for what we read so much, especially reading romance, romantasy, anything that is just not a piece of literary art. There's already so much stigma out there for women that we now have from men, that now I have to worry about other women and other you're an author. It's already bad out there, girl. Don't make it harder for us. Not the brightest sparks, says the wannabe author who used book talk to offend a vast, intelligent, and powerful portion of the book buying world. She's a genius, I'll tell you, smarter than the rest of us. Exactly, you cannot. At the end of the day, they're your consumers. One more comment that I want to bring into the attention is someone said, romantasy girls may not be stupid, but apparently we are cruel, because what do you mean she's being review bombed now? How is this appropriate? We don't like when people do it to us, so how is it okay to do it to her? Dislike her opinion, block her, move on. You're not proving anyone's point by being cruel. And I totally agree with this, because what she said was very cruel and bad. But holding someone accountable, yes. Bringing them, trying to understand them why it was wrong, yes. But bombing their book, that doesn't have anything to do with this. I just think it's just like such a vindictive behavior that I don't think we should do that. What really got me so annoyed about this whole thing is that this could have been a very constructive conversation about female representation in fantasy, about how romance in general is devalued and is being categorized as a women's genre. As I said, we already have a problem with this, and I think you could have brought it into the discussion in a very productive way. You could have brought to the attention the stories that are lacking in the fantasy world. Maybe just say, hey, I think we should have more of this, and we have too much of this. You just chose to create a mass of insults towards some people that they were just cutting strays. They were like, what did I do? But let's talk about her apology and why I think, for me, personally, it made it worse. She took the original video down and posted this apology.
I made a video on here that began with the line, "We all know that romantasy girlies are not the brightest sparks." I have since deleted that video because who wouldn't in my position, but I do have a genuine apology to make to romantasy fans, and I also want to talk about how I became so bitter and jaded.
I love that she said, I took the video down because who wouldn't? She didn't say, oh, I took the video down because, guys, I realized that's so bad and I really apologize. I think she took the video down because she was getting a lot of hate. But yeah, now she's trying to say why she was so bitter, trying to explain why she became so bitter, but let's listen to it.
See, over the past few years, romantasy fiction has not just skyrocketed in popularity, but has dominated the literary scene. At first, based on what I'd heard about romantasy and the tropes that it explored, I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. But I was curious, and I dug around, and I read the popular stuff and the less popular stuff, and I am now a fan of romantasy fiction, by and large. I'll talk about the stuff that I do like a little bit later, but I have spent a year or two now being very critical about what I see as problematic and toxic elements in the more popular romantasy fiction. There are so many themes and elements within the more popular romantasy fiction which I consider to be very pro-patriarchal and anti-feminist, and I've been very critical about that stuff. And then Alchemised came along, and I'm not on AO3, I don't know anything about fanfiction, so I didn't know that Manacled existed. But I bought into the hype and I picked up a copy of Alchemised thinking it was going to be a really clever work of dark fantasy fiction. In actual fact, I read what I believe to be the worst novel I have ever come across in my entire life. A truly heinous work of anti-feminism, pro-patriarchy, and a really twisted abuse fantasy. Now, I am a big fan of dark, twisted, subversive books that actually challenge the reader on a moral and intellectual level. But in my opinion, that's not what Alchemised is. As I keep saying, it is anti-feminist and pro-patriarchal. And I got really upset by the fact that literally millions of readers around the world were singing the praises of a book that I consider to be so horribly toxic. Then I read an actually great work of romantic fantasy fiction, What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller. This is an intelligent, nuanced, challenging, subversive take on romantic fantasy fiction. I love that novel. I think it's very daring, and I also think it's pretty sexy. But I was shocked and upset and disappointed by the fact that so many romantasy fans were giving this book 1-star reviews and saying that it's problematic and toxic and has all of the issues that I think so much popular romantasy fiction has. And this is where I reached my boiling point, where I had suddenly painted in my mind a picture of what I considered to be the average romantasy fan, who of course...
Okay, before we just finish that, let's talk about Alchemized, because I don't know, you guys probably know me, and I am a fan of Alchemized, and I do think it's a type of book that explores something and brings something out in the emotions of a reader that not a lot of books can do these days. I want to be clear about this. Yes, Alchemized is a dark book. A 1,000 pages book about war and the consequences of war. Yes, it does have Handmaid's Tale's angle, and the heroine doesn't get recognized for all the efforts she made in the war. But that's the point. It does show you how patriarchy works in war times. How a lot of the times in history, women's contributions get erased from it. How trauma affects people, and I don't think that's glorifying patriarchy. This book is critiquing patriarchy through storytelling. It's commentary on patriarchy, not endorsement. The fact that she read a book about the horrors of war and the patriarchal systems and how corrupted they are and how corrupted they can become when there's a greater goal is not even, it's not about feminism at that point. It's just how jaded people can become during wartime and how like the lines get blurred in those times. And I feel like this lady, she completely missed the point. But again, she's just like so bitter toward the fact that so many people liked Alchemized and people rate her, this book that she likes, a 1 star. Who made you the freaking arbitrary of this? Like, reading is subjective, my lady, and you have to learn how to deal with that, because I actually did a video about this, I think, where I read bad reviews of my favorite books and I found it funny. And you just need to laugh at it. And at the end of the day, she just threw a tantrum for the fact that people didn't like the book that she likes and just starting insulting everyone for that, which is so childish. Like, how can you come and be like, let me justify? No, there's no justify. Oops, I spat on a There's no justifying that. What do you mean? Like, maybe yes, you perceived Alchemized as this cruel work, but maybe a lot of other people perceived it as I did, and they saw the layer underneath it. And maybe with your book, it was the same thing. Maybe a lot of people didn't see the layer that you saw. But not a lot of people went out of their way to call you dumb for liking your book.
A picture of what I considered to be the average romantasy fan, who of course does not exist and was just a product of my jaded bitterness. This average romantasy fan, as I saw them, was someone who would go to bat for something as twisted and awful as Alchemized and would hate on a clever work of subversive feminist fiction like What Fury Brings.
I'm sorry, but you're still putting other books down and saying your book is so good, and still kind of underneath the surface, you're like, I literally, like, in my jaded view, I didn't see how people loved Alchemised, that trashy book, that sucky book, and hated my lovely book that I read.
I think it's ironic that she is upset about people saying her book is bad and then continuing to say in the same breath that someone else's book is bad.
Yeah, true. I don't know if you guys heard that, but it's a bit ironic that she's definitely saying that what sparked her behavior was the fact that people saying that the book she liked is bad, and in the same breath she goes and say this other book is bad from this point of blah 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 view. At the end of the day, she tried, and I'm really happy she deleted her original video because that shouldn't be on the internet, but it did feel a very cured apology, in which she tried to give you the why, and I don't think there should ever be a why, in which you end up insulting people on the internet on a mass level. But that's a highlight on a lot of people lately in the book community, because I think a lot of people are entitled to their opinion, but they're taking it to a whole nother level where they think it's okay to bully authors, it's okay to bully readers just because you have a different opinion than anyone else. And I'm seeing that more and more happening. I'm seeing reviewers tagging authors in awful reviews. I'm seeing authors breaking the reviewer space and commenting on people's posts that are negative, but they didn't tag the author, or going and responding into reviews on Goodreads. And I just think we need to take a step back and realize that it's just we're all different people with different experiences and different likes, and that's gonna affect our taste in books. And it's okay to not like a book that someone liked, and it's okay to like a book that someone didn't like. And don't put every first thought that comes into your brain on social media. So what do you think? Was this person out of line, or do you think we should just ignore things like this on the internet? And I actually want to hear your honest opinion if you've read Alchemised, and if you think if it glorifies patriarchy, because I'm really open to a sincere discussion about this. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys into the next one. Bye!